One of the things I say to quite a lot of the guys when they ask me where you can go with a yacht master qualification, and I said, well, passed on a Thursday, an interview on a Monday, and then by the Wednesday I was running flotillas in Greece. My name's Matthew. I'm the head of operations at Starboard and a yacht master instructor. Obviously a large part of my job is teaching the guys how to sail, and that'll be taking them right through from the very beginning up to hopefully preparing them for their yacht master exam. In amongst that, I do find myself in the office a fair bit, where I'll be sort of administering schedules and courses and coming up with ideas of how to drive efficiency in the charity and hopefully get things running smoothly. So I started sailing about 6-7 years ago, and I went on an intensive yacht master course, very similar to what we offer here now. Moved onto a boat in October and didn't move off it until February, so did a couple of weeks off here and there, but more or less 17 weeks of education and had my yacht master exam at the end of it. I'm not a veteran, but I have found since I started initially volunteering quite a few years ago now, and only being here full time really since the beginning of this year, but I've just really enjoyed the environment, and it's always been such a great bunch of people. And actually the whole way through in my sailing career, whenever anyone asked me what was the sailing that I enjoyed most, it was always volunteering with Starboard, and you know, now I'm lucky enough to have a job here, so yeah, it was a good journey. So I think initially some of the language, I don't mean foul language, I haven't got a problem with that, and I know what most of it means, but yeah, there's some specific terminology that comes out from time to time, which was a little bit of a mystery that needed to be decoded initially. So now I found myself...
For example?
Like scran, wet, different ways of ordering your coffee, all that sort of stuff, you know, and a few other bits and pieces. Still haven't figured out whether or not the word Rupert is derisive or not, but they do sometimes refer to me as their Rupert. As much as there's a lot of issues that I can observe that are unique to veterans, I don't think they're unique to humanity. And you know, I think they're all a lot of things, different flavours of what a whole lot of people can experience and empathise with and come to terms with, if that makes sense. I suppose where my approach might differ slightly is because I think quite often people refer to me as being quite relaxed. I think there's always this assumption that, okay, it's a veterans charity. There's a lot of people that are, you know, veterans, or they've had military experience, and maybe there's an expectation that some of the instruction is going to be quite regimented and quite hard going. But I think my approach is that it's hard going when it needs to be. But one of the biggest pieces of feedback I get is, in fact, when I first started, there's a few of the guys saying, "Oh, you know, you don't have to say please. You know, if you want us to do something, just tell us," kind of thing. And I was like, well, that's not really how I'm going to do it. So the way I like to train people is to make them want to do it, if I'm completely honest. And the fact is, if they don't want to do it, then they don't necessarily have to. So there's a lot of would you minds and could you just do that sort of thing. And then, but progressively, I think when it's coming, you know, when things are getting a bit more serious and it's coming up to exams and knowing your stuff and stuff, all that, I can be a bit firmer if I have to be, but So Turn to Starboard, in its very essence, provides sailing opportunities to veterans, and that can be anything from meeting up with a bunch of good people and going for a nice sail for a day or a week or whatever it is, right the way through to building people up for their yacht master exam and taking them on and beyond, all the way through to them then potentially coming back to volunteer with us, to be a skipper. But in amongst that, there's a whole lot of other things that go on that they're not set in any official capacity, but I think there's a lot of inherent benefits to being out on the water, being on a sailing boat, being with good people, being with a supportive group, being outdoors actually. I think at the time of my life where I got into sailing, I needed the being outside and the being with a bunch of good people stuff as much as anyone really. And you hear about a lot of people that are kind of locked up and not doing very much, and don't know really what to do with themselves. And I think, well, even in its very raw essence, being outside, but sailing as a medium for that, I think is just hugely beneficial to the psyche. Some of the best days I've had ever have been coming on watch at 4 o'clock in the morning when it's freezing cold and you're going across the channel or the Seine basin or whatever it is, and you see the most fantastic sunrise that you've ever seen, but you've had to frankly freeze to death for 18 hours in order to be there. And it doesn't matter how much money you've got in the whole world, you can't really pay for that. And I remember thinking on several occasions, like, this is an experience that you can't, it doesn't matter how much money you've got, you can't buy it, you know? You have to go through the hardship. But yeah, without the sort of effort and the arduous trips and the, you know, the freezing cold hands and all that sort of stuff, you know, that sunrise isn't quite the same. Turn Starboard brings people together from all sorts of different backgrounds and all sorts of different walks of life with the commonality of being veterans, and it puts them together in a team, and it makes people feel worthwhile, and it makes people feel important, and it gives people a reason to keep moving forward, and the moving forward just happens to be on a yacht or a boat. Yeah, so you can really see sometimes that we're making a difference. I mean, I think there's a sort of obvious examples of people that you hear a lot of stories about people that haven't really left their bedroom maybe for quite a long time, and they'll come down and they'll have the baseball cap down over their eyes and the shades won't come off and you don't get much eye contact, and that'll be the beginning of the week. And so I think those guys, you know, you can see the immediate effect when somebody by the end of the week is maybe connecting more and talking about coming again and all that sort of stuff. It's pretty amazing. I never forget particularly back when I was a volunteer, one family sail that I did. It was just for like 2 or 3 days, and yeah, one of the guys turned up and he was, you know, like I described, with the, you know, no eye contact, and he came down with his wife, and I don't think they got out very much and all that sort of stuff. And I remember by the end of the week I was getting a big hug from this guy's wife, because she felt like she'd not really seen the real him for quite a long time, I remember her saying even if it was just that couple of days and then it went back to the way it was, like, it would still be worth it, because, you know, she'd seen him in the way he was, if that makes sense. But more than that, you then get sort of some of the less obvious, you know, for a lot of people, the Yachtmaster track itself, as an example, is just, I think the qualification and the courses and the passing the Yachtmaster and all that is sometimes a little bit secondary to, it takes a lot of personal development to become a skipper, you know? It doesn't necessarily mean that everybody that turns up and does all the courses and passes them is going to be a good leader and a good skipper. But you do see people that go from perhaps not really being able to take command of a situation to working through all the stuff and building their own confidence, and in the framework of the Yachtmaster and the boats, then being able to sort of take charge and run a team. And then, you know, you hear the stories of, there was only someone this year who, you know, moved around a lot since leaving the military, didn't really know what he wanted to do and all that sort of stuff, and started the course living up north, and by the end of the course had moved his family down here. He had a Yachtmaster exam booked on a Friday and a new job using his Yachtmaster qualification starting on the Monday. And I said on the way up to the exam, I said to him, like, well, what happens if you if you don't pass kind of thing. He said, well, it's not really an option. Yeah, well, if he'd have failed, we would have come up with a little plan dependent on his availability, and he would have, you know, we might have agreed that you need another week or two just to finalise a couple of bits, and he would have come back and he would have smashed it. I know he would. I suppose the future holds hopefully more yacht masters. I'm sort of getting to a point where we've had, I think, 7 pass this year, which is really good. Some of those guys are going to be coming back down to do some volunteer skippering themselves, helping the sort of next generation of yacht masters come through. And progressively we're building a sort of bigger and bigger network of Turn to Starboard alumni that are all going to be helping each other out and knowing each other in the industry. If you're thinking about coming down, there's absolutely nothing to lose. Just all you can do is give it a go, and if you don't like it after a day, well, nobody's going to make you do anything. You know, worst case scenario, you get on a boat for a day, don't like it, and you can have a couple of days in Cornwall, can't you? Right?